know the NBA has a rule in place in case a whole team dies? Or that a certain number is illegal? These are the only NBA rules you didn't know exist. And first, did you know one NBA fashion rule can literally change the outcome of a game? Because if you enter the court with an untucked jersey, you'll get a warning. But if it happens again, technical foul and a delayed game. Listen, it might sound tiny, but it's seriously a make or break rule. And for Kyrie, it's definitely a make. But not everyone gets the same power, especially not Jordan Bell. Because in 2019, in the final seconds of the Thunder Timberwolves game, Karl Anthony Towns was up for free throws to try and seal it for the Timberwolves. And it looked like it was gonna happen. Then came Chris Paul.
Bell was subbing in the game and he had his jersey untucked and we already had got a delay of game, and Chris was like, you have to call it.
You want him to make this free throw.
The ref didn't want to call it, but the was so like, that's part of the rules. You know the rules.
And a delay of game has been called against Minnesota, and Jim May had been issued a delay of game warning earlier in the game.
I was mad as fuck.
Bruh, I would have crashed out on CP for pulling that. Dude was definitely that kid about to ask for homework at the end of the day. But since he called it, OKC got a free throw, then a full court layup, and won in overtime. But the NBA ain't just sticking to making petty rules. Because these days, they're actually making rules to motivate the players. You know, the whole you miss 100% of the shots you don't take saying? Well, when it comes to half-court shots, players always avoid them. Mainly because a miss would tank their stats. But the NBA wants to fix that, so we can see more of those last-second buzzer beaters. So starting in 25-26, any shot launched within the final 3 seconds of the first 3 quarters from at least 36 feet away will be counted as a team shot attempt, not a player shot attempt. Damn, that's a mouthful. But it sounds kind of dope at first, until you read the fine print. Because it also says that making it will actually count towards your own stats. So they basically invented the have your cake and eat it too rule. But do you think that rule is crazy? The NBA has a rule in place for something way darker. Like, what would happen if your entire team died? Even though that's unbelievably unlikely, the NBA likes to prepare for the worst. So they literally have an entire section of the rule book dedicated to the worst case scenario called the disaster draft. Because if that day ever came, it's not like the team would just shut down forever. They'd have to rebuild it in a single day. Here's how it works. Every franchise except for the dead one must choose up to 5 players to protect on the roster. And once they've got that locked in, the affected franchise can select one unprotected player from each franchise to fill their roster back up. Honestly, sounds like a rule the Pelicans could use these days. Nah, I'm just playing. No team deserves to ever see this thing activated, but every team is glad it exists. Cause for all the petty fines, uniform violations, and technicals, at least the league's got a plan for the one thing that actually matters. And no, it's not the only rule they have for rare scenarios, because there's a rule so rare, it's only been used once in this century. See, usually if a player has 6 fouls, that's it. They're just gonna have to come back next game, but that's not always an option.
It's behind Wes Johnson, he attacks Sacre. Oh, Sacre's fouled out. Yep. So now we've hit that situation. Sacre is out of the game. Farmar is unavailable. Kaman has fouled out.
So the last player that fouled out comes back into the game, in my estimation.
Well, the announcer's estimation was right. Since there's no one left to sub in, the NBA couldn't just send the fans home. So they enforced something called the player foul penalty, which forced Robert Sacre, the last player to go out, to just stay in. And that's actually wild to see, but that's not where it stops. Because once the last fouled player is officially out, the rule states that every foul he commits after that becomes a personal, team, and technical foul. And at that point, you got to be careful even smiling in the wrong direction. But not every rule has to do with a once-in-a-lifetime situation. Some just ban basic human functions, like when they banned Caron Butler from eating or chewing, because he had the most random game day addiction of all time, chewing McDonald's straws.
Before every game, I start at the nearest Burger King, McDonald's, grab straws, grab a handful of straws, and come to the game and start chewing them.
Wow, man. Listen, I'm not one to judge, but that's weird as hell. But it didn't stop at an addiction for Butler. He turned it into a legal skill. A reporter even asked him to find the MCD straw out of a pile of 15 while blindfolded. And, well,
right in front of you, you can feel around and pick out.
It is McDonald's.
That is the McDonald's. That is unbelievable. How did you do that?
In a random ass way, that's kind of impressive. But apparently the NBA didn't think it was nearly as cool as I did. So they banned it in 2010 because of safety issues. Guess the plastic just made him too powerful. Bro might have been one bendy straw away from greatness. But somehow, that's not even the weirdest rule on this list. Because one rule in the NBA actually takes power away from owners and execs. See, if you get a no trade clause in your deal as a player, you basically get the NBA version of diplomatic immunity. penalty. And before you run a ChatGPT to ask what that means, I'll make it simple. You can't get traded, dumped, or salary dumped unless you, the player, approve it. It's really just a massive flex. And historically, only absolutely raw players like Garnett, Kobe, or John Stockton had one. So LeBron getting one makes sense. But now Bradley Beal and Mo Wagner got one. How the hell did they get there? I know their agents photoshopped the contract. There's just no way. That's like a Forbes list putting Elon Musk and your gym teacher on the same page. So now Tweedledum and Tweedledee got the same power as the king. The world's gone crazy, man. But NTCs have nothing on what the NBA banned Shaq from doing. Because in the early 90s, Shaq took Duncan to another level when he literally brought the roof down with him.
Almost put it in, too. Here's Bowie. Shaquille, whoa! Hold on to the roof!
Yeah, this dude wasn't just destroying teams, he was destroying the actual stadium. And as wild as that gets, it got so out of hand that the NBA had to step in. Not only did they ban it, but they had to make a full new rule to keep it from happening. So now, if a player's dunk shatters the backboard, it's an automatic technical foul. And it ain't even for being disrespectful, just for breaking the laws of physics. But when Zaza broke Kawhi Leonard's ankle, the league had to write a whole new rule to stop him from doing it again. See, before 2017, defenders could close out on shooters like they were driving into traffic. And unless someone legit broke their ankles, no one even batted an eye. Enter Zaza Pachulia in Game 1 of the 2017 Western Conference Finals.
Leonard fires from the corner. And Leonard goes down again. Again, that's what they call all the time when you get your feet into the landing space of the shooter.
That one misstep made Leonard re-injure his ankle and miss the rest of the series. So the NBA had to make a new rule. Now, if a player slides under a shooter and takes away their landing zone, players get hit with a flagrant or a technical. Unsurprisingly, it's known as the Zaza rule. High-key, the NBA might have gone a little too far with this one, because the line between intentional step and accidental is blurry as hell. At least now the only thing hitting the ground is the ball and not straight bone. But even if the ball's on the ground, it doesn't mean it's making it into the basket, because in the 90s, there was a major scoring problem. So major that in just 5 years, the average PPG per team across the league dropped by nearly 10 points. And the NBA needed a solution fast. The most obvious choice would have been just to get stricter on hand checking. But we all know the NBA execs can't tell a ball from a basket. So in 1995, they went with something strange, moving the three-point line closer so that every part of the arc was just 22 feet away from the rim. Obviously, they just wanted to get scoring up, but it ended up just breaking the game. Suddenly, Steve Kerr was hitting 52% of his shots from deep. Jordan was getting above 40%, and the league as a whole went from averaging 9 threes per game to 16. But as crazy as that must have been to watch, most of the league hated it. Big guys were drifting off the court, and spacing was cramped as hell. But the biggest problem, the rule change actually made average PPGs drop even more. So by 1997, the NBA just gave up. They pushed the line back to normal and just pretended the whole thing never happened. Just like how they pretended that they don't care about players having a little fun. Because in 2019, players tried to start a new trend with ninja headbands. Yeah, for real. Players like Jimmy Butler, Mike Scott, and De'Aaron Fox all started tying their cloth Naruto style. And honestly, it looked cold as hell, but it only lasted a few months. Because apparently, having style is where the NBA draws the line. So the NBA banned them in September of 2019, citing safety concerns. Bruh, that's gotta be the most cap reason of all time. I mean, if a player got injured from a headband, that's just karma. They had to have done something bad. There hadn't been a single injury or complaint, but the rule came down anyway. And to this day, no one's ever been able to explain how a piece of cloth is more dangerous than Draymond's elbows. But that's not the only time the NBA tried to be the fashion police. See, back in the 2000s, Rajon Rondo wanted to wear his headband upside down. Did it look a little whack? Yeah, but it was iconic as hell. So iconic that other players started copying him. And initially, there was no issue. Then literally the day the 2010 season started, banned. The NBA gotta be the pettiest organization of all time. Cause this time, they said it was to keep uniformity and presentation.
What?
Didn't know I was paying $100 a year to see a grown man go through a dress code inspection. But the NBA doesn't just ban personality. Cause in 1990, the NBA had to ban Trent Tucker from making the craziest, impossible shots of all time.
Looking for Ewing. Tucker launches it. It's gone! Yes, it is possible to shoot with 1/10 of a second left.
The refs had to have bet on that game. Bro had literally 0.01 seconds left and somehow hit a three. That's gotta be the slowest 10th of a second of all time, which is pretty much what the Bulls argue. And when the NBA looked at the tape, they were like, yeah, valid. So they made the Trent Tucker rule, which states you need at least 0.3 seconds on the clock to catch and shoot. Any less and you only get a tip. No superhero shit allowed. But even if you're already a superhero, you won't get off the hook in the NBA. NBA, because Michael Jordan couldn't escape their rules. See, back in 1985, the NBA wanted every player to look exactly the same when in uniform. So if you want to throw on a pair of Elites or some wild colorways, sorry, but that violated the rules. Luckily for all players, Michael Jordan didn't care about rules. He showed up in a pair of black and red Air Jordan 1s, which is some serious main character energy. And the league hated main characters, so they banned them instantly, and even sent a letter to Nike saying the shoes violated the uniform code. On top of that, the NBA threatened a $5,000 fine for every time Jordan wore them, but Jordan was getting paid millions, so $5K was basically pennies to him. Plus, Nike even backed him with one of the wildest ad campaigns ever.
In 1985, Nike created a revolutionary new basketball shoe. A month later, the NBA threw them out of the game. Fortunately, the rules have changed.
And damn did it pay off. Those shoes sold out everywhere before Jordan even won his first title. I know, the NBA was slamming their heads against the wall after that miss. So when Dennis Rodman tried to pull something out of pocket, they cracked down fast. Because Dennis Rodman is pretty much just a 16-year-old in an elite athlete's body. So when he joined the Mavericks in 2000, his first move wasn't to learn the playbook. Nah, it was to try and wear number 69. And Mark Cuban thought it was hilarious, so he actually signed off on it. Dallas started printing jerseys, and Rodman even got one for a photo shoot. But here's the thing, Cuban's deal to buy the team wasn't completely official yet. So the second that Commissioner David Stern saw the jersey, he personally vetoed it, then banned it from the entire NBA. Sounds like he was jealous. And all because the commission never gets any action, D-Rod had to settle for number 70. But while Dennis was pushing the boundaries of the NBA rulebook, one guy literally got to play while serving time. See, back in 2017, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, KCP, got a DUI, but he got a clutch plea deal and went on probation. Problem was, he missed required screenings, which meant in the middle of the season, he'd have to drop out to go to jail for 25 days. But because the NBA is his work, the court let him out to hoop. There was one catch. Since he couldn't leave Cali, he had to play with an ankle monitor. Bro was literally on arrest in the Staples Center. In the next game, he played in handcuffs. Nah, I'm playing. But the NBA cares so much about making money, not only did they let a criminal keep playing, but in 2010, the NBA banned a shoe that could have turned everyone into Jordan. See, there was a company called Athletic Propulsion Labs, and if that name doesn't clue you into what they were trying to do, the shoe definitely will, because inside the shoe was some Iron Man tech called Load and Launch.
When you're walking on a diving board, nothing happens. But when you get to the edge and you compress all of your energy, it propels you upwards, and that's what our technology does.
And they even said it could get an extra 3 to 4 inches in your vertical. The thing legit almost turned the league into NBA Jam, but the NBA was not about to let that happen, so they straight up banned them.
What they said to us explicitly was, this shoe provides an undue competitive advantage to whoever wears the product.
To be honest, valid call from the execs. Still, it would have been cool to see just one game with everyone flying around the court, but banning enhanced gear still isn't enough for them. Because even though the NBA allows legit ankle monitors, if you pull up in a brand that isn't paying them, you're cooked. See, buried deep in the NBA's collective bargaining agreement is a rule banning everything from trademarks to commercial logos on players. And they don't mess around. J.R. Smith and Kelly Oubre got fined just because their Supreme drip went too hard. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, because the NBA is so petty that this rule even extends to tattoos, hair logos, and body art. That may sound kinda extreme, because it is, but it doesn't stop them from enforcing it. LaMelo, Stephon Marbury, and J.R. Smith had to all cover up tats, and Amon had to shave the Illuminati triangle right into his head to cover up an Adidas logo. Wow. At this point, I would just go bald, bruh. But there's no style the NBA hated more than Allen Iverson's. Because before 2005, players could wear whatever they wanted to games. Baggy jeans, throwback jerseys, chains the size of a bus, anything that screamed 2000s rich. And nobody embodied that more than Iverson. Dude was showing up like he just dropped a mixtape, but the NBA hated it. So in 2005, David Stern hit the league with a dress code like it was a Catholic school. He banned t-shirts, chains, sneakers, hats, jeans, basically anything fun.
They made a big deal when I was doing it, and some of the stuff these dudes wearing. Come on, man. They were picking on me then, obviously. It changed my style up a little bit, but I'm 40 years old. At some point, you know what I mean? I knew it was gonna change.
Honestly, wild to hear Iverson say he doesn't mind it now, considering the dress code was damn near just the Iverson Act of 2005. But the funny part, with the way culture shifted since then, street style's gone from unsophisticated to red carpet walks at the Met Gala. So the NBA probably couldn't ban it even if they wanted to. But culture's not the only thing that influences the NBA. Back in the 90s, they literally invented a rule just to keep one player happy. And obviously, that player was Michael Jordan. I mean, at his peak, he was basically their daddy. So he got stuff most players could only dream of, like the "for the love of the game" clause. See, when most players sign an NBA contract, there's strict rules. No outside games, no pickup runs, no charity events, nothing that could risk injury. But when Jordan joined the Bulls in '84, he demanded a clause that let him play ball anywhere, anytime, against anyone. And the NBA legit folded under no pressure and gave it to him. But it wasn't like Jordan was using it to rage on divorced dads and pickup.
One place where he often invoked that clause was in late-night games at his summer basketball camp for kids at suburban Elmhurst College. That's where this home video was shot last summer. On many hot summer nights after the young basketball campers went to bed, Michael would join in fierce basketball battles against the college players helped to run the camp. They would play into the early morning hours and they would play all out.
Honestly, that's kind of wholesome, but he wasn't trying to use it to play against college wannabes. The clause also led to an iconic moment when he played an exhibition in Italy. It was 1985, peak rookie MJ energy, and Nike had him suiting up for some nobody Italian team called Stefani Tressetti just to put on a show. Well, they definitely got one, because he straight up pulled the Shaq attack when he hit a dunk. Those Italians must have thought a literal god was on the court, but MJ's probably the only player that got a rule invented for him. Charles Barkley, on the other hand, had a rule invented against him. See, Barkley was so strong and massive that he could literally hold defenders hostage.
We appear to be on the way to a blowout, and Charles Barkley single-handedly.
He catch the ball near the three-point line, then slowly back his defender down until there was nowhere else to go. And sometimes this went on as long as 15 seconds. The shot clock was nearly dead every time. The crowd was checking their watches, and Barkley would still be halfway to the basket. So in 1999, the NBA finally had enough, introducing the Charles Barkley rule. Essentially, if you were below the free throw line with your back to the rim for more than 5 seconds, it was a turnover. So if you ever wonder why you don't see guys bullying their way to the basket for half of a quarter, you could thank old Chuck for that. But the rule Spencer Haywood got invented literally changed the course of NBA history, because LeBron wouldn't even exist in the NBA without Haywood. See, back in 1970s, the league had a rule that said you couldn't join until 4 years after high school. And that probably sounds normal until you realize what that meant for kids like Spencer Haywood.
My mother was picking cotton for $2 a day since she was 3 years old. And that was our source of income.
Yeah, this man was like 50 Cent broke. So he was out here grinding like no one else in high school. He took the team to the state championship. He became the Junior College Player of the Year. And before trying for the NBA, he decided to make a pit stop in the Olympics. Yeah, for real. Haywood was so raw that he became the youngest American basketball player in the Olympics at just 19. And by that point, he figured it was stupid to wait for the big leagues, so he joined the ABA. No problem there. But when he tried to sign with the Supersonics in the NBA, the league blocked it, saying he was ineligible. So Haywood hit him with the most gangster move possible. He sued the NBA.
I am the guy who sued the NBA, the NC2A, and the Denver Rockets of the ABA all the way to the Supreme Court so that they could get this ruling so that you guys can make the kind of money so you could come into the league when you were qualified rather than sitting in a college for 4 years making university rich. So yeah, I was that, I was Jack.
Absolute baller. And when the court ruled in his favor, he got to make the NBA look like a bunch of clowns. So they scrambled and quickly introduced the hardship rule, which would let players enter early if they had financial or family needs. Now, the rule was bad for some players like Kwame Brown or Kwame Brown. Haywood is literally the reason Moses Malone, Kevin Garnett, Kobe, LeBron, and Tracy McGrady got to skip straight to the NBA. Spencer Haywood didn't just earn himself a roster spot, he guaranteed one for every prodigy that came after him.